Welcome to the Through the Lane podcast with co-host Lane. Carmine's not here today. I moved it around a little bit. We're in a different spot of the house today. Try to mix it up a little bit. It will probably end up being a shorter episode today. Not much has really happened since last episode outside of just a few big things, but it won't be much to talk about. Starting off, the NBA Finals is over. The Celtics won 4-1. They won Game 5, 106-88, and, Kyrie, I talked about this, had to show up, and the big boogeyman for him is TD Garden. He had 15 points. He did have 9 assists, but still was not enough. 15 points is not enough. The bench was terrible. No production from it. Really nothing else from the role players. I mean, Derek Lively had a quiet game. I've been impressed though with Derek Lively throughout, but Jason Tatum finally had himself a really good game. 45 minutes, it says, and he had 31 points, 11 assists, 8 rebounds. Jaylen Brown had 21 points, 6 assists, and 8 rebounds in 44 minutes. And Kristaps Porzingis played 16 minutes, only dropped 5 points, but it was nice to see him kind of return for a bit. This was kind of a sad finals. I think Luka's bad habits and Kyrie not being in the same TD Garden really kind of, left us out of a really good showing. I think I saw something that's like one of the lowest watched finals in NBA history, especially since like the early 2010s. Because we kind of knew what was going to happen. Jaylen Brown won Finals MVP, and that's big. Some people said Jason Tatum. I think Jaylen Brown overall deserved it. I think he'd been more impactful. Yes, the stats say one thing, but Jaylen Brown had been... Jason Tatum had empty buckets, I think. He was chucking a lot more, empty stats. And Drew Holiday made a case for it with how much he was locking guys down. Drew Holiday, I think, was the real big determining factor in this because he shut down Tyrese Haliburton and Andrew Nembhard. He shut down... other guys throughout the playoffs. I think he, deserved a lot more consideration. But man, I really want to talk more about the Mavericks. It's kind of just disappointing. PJ Washington there's a report out looking for him. No one's seen him since, the conference finals. And it's kind of disappointing because he had such a good playoff run. And I think he only scored over 10 points once. And I think it was one of the games they lost. And he played 34 minutes last time. Derrick Jones Jr., he's a solid player, but I don't think you need either a third star for him to be, your starter, or you just need to get someone to replace him that will give you 15 points a game instead of 8 to 10, maybe 12 on a good day. And then the center position, them having to rotate Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, dude is, Daniel Gafford played 11 minutes. Derek Lively only had 4 rebounds in 24 minutes. Gafford had 3 and 11. I think they need to make some moves. They're a little strapped on money. Dwight Powell, he's been there for forever. It's not the same since his leg injury a few years ago. I think that once his deal is almost up, that they'll have some more money, but man, this team, it's in an interesting spot. The Celtics, are the favorites to repeat, and I just don't think they will. They don't have the depth. We saw with KP that they really put a strain on it. So say they lose KP again, or Al Horford, Father Time finally hits them. And then you lose. Drew Holiday goes down because he has some times where he's hurt, or Derek White goes down. You're really going to be, they got lucky that most of their guys, and let me look this up, were healthy. Because for majority of the season, because they didn't really have to dip into their depth at all. Let's look here. Let's look at the starts, the games played. Yeah, Jason Tatum, 74, 70 for Jaylen Brown, 69 for Drew Holiday, 73 for Derek White, 65 games played for Al Horford. which is pretty big, you know. I know the 69, so they missed like 12 games. The most was 13, and that probably played a lot in the games they lost. And then again, you know, they really just didn't have depth. They were trying to roll through Lamar Stevenson, Dallow, Banton, Jared Springer did not, you know, contribute much. Ohashi Brissett, Quinta, Xavier Tillman, Lee Cornett, Sam Hauser was solid. I mean, they pretty much had an 8-man rotation because Luke Cornett and Al Horford's kind of redundant. He doesn't shoot a 3, so it's very redundant to have him on the court. Xavier Tillman shoots a little bit of 3, so it's kind of different. But yeah, man, I think that the Lakers, I think they got healthy with a good bill of health. I think that the games they missed were games to let the guys rest. And then let's go look at the Mavericks, man, because it wasn't a team that scared me. I mean, I said that earlier on. I wasn't scared about them at all. Because they, you know, the Celtics lack depth, but the Mavericks lack overall depth, and I think that it showed. It showed a little bit. Let's look here. You know, Kyrie played 58 games. P.J. Washington played a decent bit. Tim Hardaway, Grant Williams was a disaster of a signing. Josh Green was a bad extension. Derek Jones Jr. was solid. Derek Lively was a great rookie. Daniel Gafford did his job. You know, Max Akliba, and then it just drops. You know, Dante Exum was solid a little bit. Jaden Hardy, but he was very inefficient. And then you just go down and it's just, you know, no depth. Their other first-round pick, Prosper, played 40 games, but it was mostly in crunch time. Seth Curry really did not do much. Rashawn Holmes, you know. I don't think Seth Curry's still on the team anymore. I think he was traded. Yeah, he's in Charlotte now. I just don't. They've got a lot of holes. They need Oscar to develop to be the power forward of the future. And then they just need help. They need help on the bench. They need a true 6-man. Maybe Jaden Hardy becomes that guy, but like, he's a bit of a chucker. And if you're very inefficient off the bench, then what are you? You know, I can't give you more minutes. If you're inefficient as a starter, I can put you to the bench, and you start being more efficient. You're taking less shots, becoming smarter with the ball. And so, yeah, it was very lackluster finals. Luka, his bad habits showed. I think he was able to get away with them for 3 rounds. And then, you know, I talked about this earlier on. The man does not play defense. And he's kind of lazy. And, you know, I've been talking about this for a while. He looks out of shape. And I know this is another talking point, but if Luka wants to win a title, and I think if overall wants to win an MVP, he's got to open the year in shape and just hit the ground running and put them ahead. If they're number 1 seed, then, you know, be a lot better. But again, you know, they just did not look good. Let's look at the series stats for this past, you know, for you know, let's see, averages. Can I get averages? Yeah, here we go. Luka, and so I don't think it has it for the finals yet, but you look at it, he had, you know, in the conference finals, 32 points. P.J. Washington was averaging 12. Daniel Gafford was 10 and 7. They just did solid, but I mean, it's just Luka got lazy, and I heard Woj talk about this. When he has to shoulder everything offensively, he gets very lazy on the defensive side of the ball, and you saw it, and it was kind of prevalent. It's disappointing, very disappointing, but, you know, hopefully next year's better. I think if the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, and I'm going to say this now, the Timberwolves are a scary team that are going to come up in the future. Because they're really just, you know, they've got their experience now. I think they're maybe one piece away, wing-wise, or just the 6th man scorer, that to really play a factor, to really be scary. And so, yeah, I just don't know. This is a team that needs a lot of help. I think the Timberwolves are probably the team to beat moving forward. The Warriors are a team that you're going to have to look at as, you know, the Warriors. If they re-sign Clay, then, you know, think they're one of the better teams in the league. Down the stretch, they caught fire, and I think if, you know, they can stay healthy, then, yeah, I think they'll be a team that'll be scary. On to the next. We'll go with this first. Pascal Siakam signed a 4-year extension. Let's look at this. Signed a 4-year, $189.5 million max contract extension with the Pacers. I like this move, but it kind of, you've got to do something with Obi Toppin, Jalen Smith, this blocks Jacoby Walker officially, or Jarris Walker officially, unless you want to play him at the 5 or the 3. I mean, how big is Jarris Walker here? What are we talking about? 6'7", he could play the 3. He's 235 though. He's a little bit on the heavier side. He can't really play small ball. Obi Toppin, I think they let him walk. It'd be the end of his deal. I think he maybe has one more career year, but then again, still not a big fan. He, 40% from 3, career high, career year, 57% from the field, 40% from 3, 77% from free throw line, 4 rebounds, not much defensively. 6'9", 220. He doesn't play, and Carmen talked about this. He doesn't play with the same style he did in college. A little bit more of a 3-and-D type of guy, lob threat. He doesn't play where he's just driving it down, taking it to the rim, kind of being a slasher that we saw at Dayton. And that, I think that plays to the fact that the lack of talent that he faced at Dayton, where he could just get away. I think part of his game got exposed, and I don't think he's worked on that. But I think they let him go to let their, the guy they are huge on, and Jarris Walker, where did they pick him? 4? 8. And he's 20 years old. I think he could be a big part of the team moving forward. Jalen Smith, I think, is gone. And I like their depth. I like their depth at the guard position. Benedict Mathurin will play big, will pretty much be their 6th man. Aaron Nesmith had a great year. 12 points after being kind of hidden on the bench for, a few years. He did really good last year, 10 points. He shoot the lights out of a stadium. 42% from 3, 50% from the field. That's really good. And I like, plays solid defense, about a steal a game, close to a block a game, 4 rebounds, doesn't turn the ball over much. It kind of gets in foul trouble, but that's fine. I like the extension outside of that it blocks Jarris Walker. I think the Pacers are going to be a team that are going to be formidable down the stretch, a team that you're going to have to watch out for. Just going forward, they play really good ball. I think they just need experience. They had every game they played with the Celtics were close. They could have beaten them in most games till Tyrese Halliburton went down. They just lacked experience to do anything, with the loads of turnovers in the game. They're just trying to, pick up the pace instead of just kind of just draining clock because, they like to play fast pace, but, with experience comes, having the ability to kind of slow it down, take your time, and they just didn't show that. And so I think it's a little bit on Rick Carlisle, and then I think, next year, like the Timberwolves, they need, they'll be a factor. The difference between the Timberwolves and the Pacers are the Timberwolves play great defense, their offense was lacking. The Pacers played great offense, but the defense was lacking. And, you can say, high-power offenses got everywhere. Look at the Warriors, but the Warriors were always top, 10 in defense. I think that was, they just weren't the best. Pacers were one of the worst teams in defense. And, yes, they have Miles Turner and T.J. McCollum, but Benedict Mathurin has not filled his defensive side of the ball potential that he had coming out of college. Something I would like to see him do more. And I think, they need some defensive help. I think Jarris Walker playing more will be that defensive help. Pascal Siakam may be able to help them a little bit more. He gives him a little bit more size. I know that at times Aaron Nesmith was playing the 4, and then they'd have like Benedict Mathurin playing the 3 or somebody. But I think it'd be better. They have more size now. They're not so undersized, and if they turn the ball over a lot, which ends up letting more points to be scored. So I think they played a little bit smarter than not so many turnovers, and it will be a little bit better. Moving forward, Monty Williams was fired, and I called this because he was so bad for the first half of the season, and he did not fit the bill. I think Monty Williams is a really good coach, but I don't think he was fit for the situation that he was in Detroit. Detroit was a rebuilding team with a lot of young guys who needed playing time, and he was not giving out playing time. And yes, playing time is earned. Yes, that is something you got to get. But Jaden Harvey coming off the bench, sometimes Jaden Ivey not even playing, and him being like, let's look at this, one of their top players. I mean, that's where the whole Jaden Ivey thing is where it all went south for him. Because he's former 5th overall pick in 2022, right? I think this was like, his second year? Second year in the league. As a rookie, he had 16.3 points per game, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. He shot 34% from 3. He was a little inefficient. You say, how about it? You said he's not that good on defense. He's got to grow into it, dude. He's like, 22? The brother is athletic. He can play defense. Would I like his efficiency to be up? Yes. But he only started 61 games, and I know that's a lot, but he played in 77, started 61. He came off the bench in, 16? And that was to start the season. They were losing games because of it. And then, him not knowing how to play Marcus Sasser, let's look this up. Let's look at the Pistons team, because it was something that was making me mad, because this, let's be honest, this wasn't a terrible Pistons team. They are better than 14-68. Way better. Number 1 overall pick, number 5 overall pick, Jalen Duren, James Wiseman, Asar Thompson. Him moving Asar Thompson from the bench to starting, so infuriating. Let's look at Asar Thompson's stats. He only started 38 games. Brother was another top 5 pick in the draft? Let's look this up, because it's not going to pop up on Basketball Reference. Because, I think he's good. Yeah, he was the number 5 overall pick. Start the man. Him trying to put the veterans, and he didn't have Bojan Bogdanovic to start the year. Asar Thompson was 48% from the field, now 19% from 3, 60% from the free throw line. But you got to get him minutes. This isn't a team relatively contending. You got to give him minutes. And I think he would have won some more games because he would have popped off. The Killian Hayes experiment, where Killian Hayes started 31 games, terrible. And again, I think that played into the whole factor of Monty Williams getting fired. There were talks throughout the season after, he was running 12-man rotations. The league average this past year was 9 to 8. 9, which was weird, because usually it's 10, but a lot of teams were running 9-man rotations. And he was playing Killian Hayes. You have another first-round pick in Marcus Sasser, and let's look at Marcus Sasser. 8.3 points per game, shot 37% from 3. And then let's compare him to Killian Hayes. 30%. They shot almost identically from the field. He scored less points. Only had to steal a game or less. Let's look at this. Yeah, he didn't. Same stats defensively. I just don't think it was good, Shake Milton being on the team, playing, okay, those were trades, but, Malachi Flynn popped off, still on the bench, still getting barely any minutes. He played, Joe Harris played 16 games, should not have been playing. Kevin Knox was solid. Marvin Bagley was solid when he started, but again, they kept moving him to the bench. Evan Fournier did not play enough. If you were wanting to win now, Evan Fournier was fit great with this team as a shooter, a team that lacked shooting. the brother was shooting like what, 50%? No. His shooting stats were a little bit down, but again, he's a known three-point sniper. Alec Burks, coming off the bench, was good. Let's keep looking here. Isaiah Stewart at the power forward, I thought was a terrible idea. Needed a backup big. James Wiseman was getting shafted, 7 points per game, 5 rebounds as your backup big. If you had Isaiah Stewart starting at the 4, is good. Again, what does he not show you? Shooting 61% from the field. It's not enough defense, dude. This team is not. It's not the worst team, but it's not a great team. They've got to learn how to play. It's not going to hit the ground running. They've got to build continuity. Again, playing these deep rotations, no one could build a sense of synergy, togetherness. The things that get starting line so good is they play a while together. Benches, they play a while together. They know how to play with each other. He wasn't allowing that at all. He was just, throw a guy in here, throw a guy in here, throw a guy in here. Why? I think, Malachi Flynn should have been given more minutes. Two-way players. Stanley Umde was pretty good. Now, don't get me wrong. Troy Weaver handed him not that great of a roster. But I never liked this sign from the get-go. I think it was a year or two too early. Because this team is still growing. This team's still in the early stages. And we're going to talk about who I think is probably the best coach for this. And, I've talked about where I believe Monty Williams should have been, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But again, it was always a fluid movement. No sense of consistency. The Jaden Ivey thing and the Killian Hayes thing and Asar Thompson, I think just did him in. I think he rubbed people the wrong way. He kind of didn't know it seemed like he knew what he was doing. When he was with the Suns, he had, there were some known guys. He had a number 1 overall pick and DeAndre Ayton, and then he had Devin Booker. He had Chris Paul. He had Cameron Johnson. Guys who kind of weren't developmental dudes. They were safer bets. He comes in a team with a lot of guys that need development. And the best way, when you don't have a lot of veterans, is play them. Let them get the playing time. The floor, Asar Thompson's floor is a great bench, rebounding big. Maybe a fringe starter. But you can't let him grow if he's not getting 30 minutes a night. He's got to tinker with things. He's got to play. Because if he soaks up, it's a lot of minutes for a rookie too, especially a guy like him, helps him develop. That's why you see guys get sent down to the G League, because they're not getting consistent minutes. And it was something that they weren't even sending him down to the G League. I'm so happy that he's gone, because I think he wasn't fit for the team, and it was wasting his talent, and it was wasting the team. And I'm so happy to see Troy Weaver gone, because there's a lot of JMO stuff. They need a small forward now. They've got 3 guys who can play point guard. They've got 2 starting centers in Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren. And Asar Thompson. Isaiah Stewart does not need to be playing power forward on this team. Because Asar Thompson, he's got the size, but he can also play power forward. He does not have the offensive game to play small forward. Does not shoot well enough. I'll take 20% for my power forward if he's shooting the way he is. 50% from the field, 6 rebounds, a steal and a block. The brother was going insane. And me and Corbin had talked about it, they can't shoot threes. I think he can develop. I think he's a little bit better than his brother. Let's look at Amen Thompson's stats. Now, Amen was hurt for a bit of the season. But again, like the whole Monty Williams thing is he's just experimenting. Amen is also a lot better offensively. He's 9.5 points. 13% from the 3, but he shot 53% from the field. They had him as listed as small forward. Amen's a point guard. He's a guard. I know they're similar builds. 6'7". Let's look at Amen or Asar. Asar 6'7", 215, 209. But I just like Asar as a power forward. Amen is a small forward. Amen is a point guard. Asar is a power forward. And the fact, until he can develop more of a 3-point game. And I don't think, and maybe you have him as your 6th man. If you want to live and die by Isaiah Stewart being your, starting power forward. But if you're not going to play James Wiseman, A, get rid of him. B, have Isaiah Stewart as your backup center. Because I don't know where you go forward. The mock drafts, and let's look at this. I am not coming out with a mock draft because it's like there's not enough intel and it's changing every day that, let's look here. Pistons. They fell to 5, right? Mastis Bucas, right? Small forward. 6'9", 119 pounds. Pro comp, Lamar Odom. So he may move to power forward. Not much talk of his shooting. Let's look him up. He played in the G League Ignite. Something me and Carmine has said had been a massive mistake. That's something that should not have happened at all. 14 points, 6.5 rebounds, 2 assists. What did he shoot from 3? 27% from 3. I hope they don't draft him, because if you have him and Asar Thompson together, that's another bad decision. That's just a bad. You have a non-shooting forward center group. Jalen Duren's more than enough to make up for his lack of shooting. 14 points, 12 rebounds. Would like to, a block. I would like to see more. Played 61 games. I think it's the healthiest season he's had so far. Again, they need to figure out the forward position. Asar, yes, could be a small forward, but I think he's better as a power forward due to his lack of shooting. Let's keep looking at this mock draft. Who else could that, Cody Williams, so I think could fit better. Ron Holland. Would love to see Ron Holland on that team. Don't connect. Would love to see him. Mastis, they talk about shot making versatility, but you need shooting. With Asar Thompson's lack of shooting, you need it. You need a guy that you know can get a bucket. You need somebody, and I know you don't need another ball dominant player, because then you have Kate Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, another ball dominant player, Asar Thompson, and Jalen Duren. The ball, there's not enough for everybody, but still, I would have loved. Asar Thompson, I think, will be great. 20-point per game guy, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, two blocks, and a steal a game. But I think you're in a critical point of his career where you've got to have him playing. It was either G League all year or playing. You can't have him bouncing playing time. There were games where they just didn't play him. And this is where I think he was Monty Williams was experimenting, and it backfired. It backfired hard. Now, moving on. And we're going to talk about this. The Lakers search. Things have come out, and we've seen both sides of this. The Lakers coaching search is all over the place. Are they going to get J.J. Redick, or are they not? Monty Williams is fired now, and he was their head guy going into last year. And I believe he's the best candidate for that team. A similar team to when he was with the Suns. Maybe a little bit worse of a roster, but they can get Chris Paul, because he'll most likely end up becoming a free agent. I think he fits it more than J.J. Redick, and they were talking about this morning, and I like the idea of it. J.J. Redick is a better fit for the Pistons, and I agree, because he has more leeway. And I thought about this, and they brought up this comparison, the Steve Kerr comparison, thinking you get J.J. Redick, Kate Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson, whoever they draft, Jalen Duren, James Wiseman. He'll make it a scary team, because he can run buck wild. The world is your oyster if you're J.J. Redick. Now, I know you want to go to L.A. because it's L.A. and you can win a title right away, but you can go on a little bit of a run if you're the Pistons. The Lakers' window is small. Maybe 2 years. At best, at worst, 1. At best, 2. And then, this is a team that has no draft picks. So you're stuck in turmoil, because what are you going to do? Then trade Anthony Davis and just full-on reset? You won't get the assets you've been giving up in all the trades. And again, they're talking about trading their first-round pick again this year. So again, it's a pit hole. I think Monty Williams has done better with a championship-style level team, like the Lakers, when he was with the Suns, than he would with the Pistons. I think J.J. Redick will do a great job with the Lakers, but I think it'd be a lot better for his developmental. He wouldn't have the pressure with the Pistons. But again, It probably won't happen because, the whole thing, the Lakers. Man, the Lakers are about to... Once LeBron leaves, if you're a Lakers fan, it's going to be dark days. Because when you had Kobe, y'all weren't shoving out first-round picks. Y'all shoved out first-round picks for Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, all other kinds of guys to bring them into the team. Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura. I mean, dude, they still have, the Pelicans are still getting first-round draft picks from the Lakers trade, the AD trade. And we're darn near 5 years removed. This year, the Pelicans had the chance to take the pick, but they turned it down because it was 17. This is a terrible draft. So they passed on it for next year's pick. So again, they don't have a pick next year. I mean, what are you going to... if I'm JJ Redick, I know you have a podcast with LeBron, and I know it's purple and gold and all this and that. But, Cade Cunningham, first overall pick a few years ago. Looks great. Had a great second half of the year. Jaden Ivey oozes with athleticism. Got hops for days. Jalen Duren is going to be a 15 and 12 type of guy, night in and night out. Asar Thompson, again, athleticism for days. Sky-high ceiling. If you can, honestly, if you give him JJ Redick, he may start shooting 30-something% from the three this upcoming season, which would elevate his game even more, which would make them play-in candidates. Maybe French playoff contenders. You hand him another, Mastis who struggles from three. Again, there we go. We forget that JJ Redick was a really good three-point shooter, so he can teach him. Yes, he's got that shoulder injury, but he can teach him. Wonderful mind. I say he's a Dan Orlovsky of basketball. But if he went to the Lakers, he's got 2 years, and then he's in hell. He's going to be like the Nets. The Nets don't control their first-round pick any year because they trade him away. Their own first-round pick. Now, the Nets have the other team's first-round pick, so it's a little bit... But, there was a point where it's like they had to get outside additions. They had to hit the head, and they landed on D'Angelo Russell, and then they kind of destroyed an uprising team for KD and Kyrie and James Harden, and, we saw that downturn. There's not going to be that for the Lakers. Yes, they're going to be a free agent destination. Maybe they can build around it, but building teams through free agency have never worked. You got to develop some home talent. Right now, you have Max Christie and Jalen. I can't say JSH. We'll call him JSH as your other two homegrown guys. Max Christie and JSH. And JSH, I don't know if you've seen the clips of him, looks awful. Awful. And I don't want to write him away, but he kind of looks like he's trying to do too much with Russell Westbrook and then has the wonkiest jump shot in the world. And that's coming from a guy that has a terrible jump shot. Obviously. But, there's nothing there. Dave Vincent is arguably on a terrible contract. Anthony Reeves is a top-end role player. Rui Hachimura is mad. D'Angelo Russell is hot and cold like nobody's business. Anthony Davis is getting up there in age. LeBron does not look like he's having fun anymore. He's pretty much just waiting on Bronny. If you bring in Bronny, you're holding on the biggest boom and bust prospect we've seen in a while because of his name. I think without his name, he wouldn't be that big of a boom and bust prospect. But with his name, everyone expects these big things. So you have 2 years to have him develop and to replace. Like the player they say he was an all-NBA caliber player. Which, let's be honest, Bryce James is going to be the better player. The better size. I think Bronny got caught a hard card when he had those heart issues. And it's wonderful to see that he's back. But I think it would have been better for him and his recovery and everything for him to play another year of college basketball because he doesn't have that much pressure on him. He can just go play college ball. Now he's going to the league, and it's like you've got to get to it. You've got to do stuff now. You've got to perform. You don't have long. Your dad's about to leave. And don't get me started on Bronny. He's denying teams workouts. He's got the Suns and the Lakers. And he's got 3 opportunities to get drafted. Lakers two picks, and I think the Suns have a second-round pick. Maybe the Suns or the Lakers can buy another second-round pick, and it's a weird concept, but I'm not going to go into it because I think when the Lakers drafted Max Christie, they bought that second-round pick. They paid a team for it. It's what we see in baseball where cash considerations is given to a team for a pick. It's what's called buying your second round pick. Lakers and top teams are notorious for doing it because they usually end up trading them away and then they'll buy it back end or mid second round picks for players. But again, JJ should not have to be put in that position. It's Steve Nash type of. Now I think JJ Redick's going to be a better coach than Steve Nash. But again, you're setting him up to fail. And Monica McNutt said it great this morning. The guys are holding 2-year terms. I mean, it's like political elections, dude. 2-year terms. And then someone else is in. And then they're gone. Frank Vogel got fired like a year or two after he won the title. They canned him for Darvin Ham. And they canned Darvin Ham after a year. After they won the offseason. They won this, that. They win the in-season tournament. And then they canned him. Because there was a disconnect. All of a sudden that appeared. Because the GM did not approve of some things. And at some point, Rob Pelinka's got to accept responsibility. He is putting together terrible rosters. They should have tried their hardest to keep that 2020 roster together and run it back. But the issue that happens with some teams when they win a title is we got to improve, like the Braves. You just got to keep making moves. And you get rid of the core dudes for bigger names, and it ends up hurting the team because they don't perform, they don't match well. The Russell Westbrook trade, never should have brought him in. I was more happy for Dennis Schroeder getting brought in than Russell Westbrook because Dennis Schroeder, I thought off the bench for the Thunder did so good that maybe if he started or was the sixth man, they've got another big-time scorer. Letting Alex Caruso go, I mean, holy cow, they still haven't recovered in the backcourt. Dwight Howard, letting him go, yet to find a backup center. They rotated through Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes this year. Could not pick one. They traded for Obama last year and Thomas Wright. Rob Pelinka, he kind of just blew it up to bring in, and Carmelo Anthony, I thought he did good. The Russell Westbrook thing, that really derailed a lot of things. Gave up Kyle Kuzma. Great third star. Now you're relying on D'Angelo Russell. When you had Kyle Kuzma, imagine Kyle Kuzma now, he was a great third star. He helped them so much in the playoffs. I mean, that is a trade, like you talk about, they had Lonzo. They made that trade for Anthony Davis, and that's paid off. The Kyle Kuzma trade there, sitting back and thinking, man, could have had a 20-point per game score. Maybe it's like 16 points. Very efficient. Played solid defense. Healthy there, night in and night out. And now you just traded him for Russell Westbrook. An aging Russell Westbrook who's got a massive ego. That was ring chasing. And I like Russell Westbrook with the Wizards. But was him going to LA was so bad. I think he's done great with the Clippers. But again, he's so bad. He just takes too many shots. He can't shoot a three. His defense has disappeared, which is something that was big for him, that he had great defense. And I think Monty Williams is better for that team. I know I've been on a rant. I think, and I know this is shafting to JJ Redick, because the Lakers keep turning back to him like a good old hooker, right? Back in the old days. But it's not his best scenario. Monty Williams is better fit for that. Lakers tried to get him last year. I think either way it's a good signing, but I think long term Monty Williams is better for that team. The JJ Redick with a team that can just go flying. In an East that has, you can make some noise in, because outside of like maybe 3 teams in the East, there's not a set team. There's a lot of questions in it. And you have the 5th overall pick. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at Ron Holland. Shoot, I'd get Ron Holland or Cody Williams. You need a 4 or a 5, or 3 or 4, because you lack one. But that's the end of my rant. I was going to talk some baseball, but I don't have a lot of time today. And we're going to cut the rant there. We're going to cut the episode there. Hopefully Carmine's back for the next episode. I know he's about to leave soon. But Probably starting next episode, we'll dive into NBA off seasons, and then once NFL camp starts, we'll get into those. How the teams look, expectations, stuff like that, because that's exciting, and usually we'll see teams, fall or rise. But thank you for watching today's episode.